Thank you. This is podcasting on a budget. So that's what this looks like.
I mean, if there's one thing I could talk about, it's waitressing. Holy shit.
I can't wait. Okay. Oh, hi, you're listening to Service from Hell, the podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I currently work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles. And at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, Shawn Pelofsky. Shawn is another multi-hyphenate artist as an actor, writer, producer, and comic. She's originally from Oklahoma and was one of the only Jews to ever be in the state. She has a BA in theater from USC and is a Groundlings-trained improviser. You may have also seen her on the NBC hit Community, Chelsea Lately, Last Comic Standing, or the enormously successful The Tonight Show on NBC. Shawn also currently produces the incredibly funny game show Funny You Should Ask on CBS. I better know Shawn from seeing her hilarious show Facebook Rants at the Comedy Store on the Sunset Strip, where she and other famous comics perform real social media posts that are always unbelievable. Shawn, please tell us about yourself.
Ah, Kate. Well, wasn't that a mouthful, huh? I feel like after that I should say Shabbat Shalom or read you like the specials for the day. Would you like to hear that? Oh, I'm going to get into it.
Here we go.
I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, I think you said it all. I mean, It's. I feel like my grandma Bertha, just like bragging about it. It was very nice.
It's all true.
Like, I did that. I did that too. So yeah.
I even cut it down. That's not your full bio of all the successful things you've done.
Well, now we're just humble bragging, Kate. So yeah, no. I'm here. I'm happy and just happy to be working.
How long have you been in Los Angeles?
Oh gosh, I got here in the Stone Ages, and then I came here.
Handful of years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say about 25 years I've been in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Directly from Oklahoma?
Yeah, I'm originally from Oklahoma City, born and raised, and one of very few Jews that lived there. And I got out, which is crazy and exciting. So it's been a party ever since.
Okay. So did you come out to Los Angeles for comedy, or why'd you come out here?
Well, I came out to Los Angeles to perform, to actually pursue a career in comedy and not necessarily stand up. My goal and dream was to be on Saturday Night Live. So as a young kid, I always did impersonations, developed characters. And that was really just my dream, kind of to do sketch comedy. So I came out to Los Angeles to go to the University of Southern California and stayed out here because it was really, my choices were slim. It was either here or New York City. And let's face it, New York City is a big fucking rat race. And I just didn't feel like playing survival of the fittest. So I went where it was sunnier.
Okay, cool. So you came out to SC and then you got a BA in theater.
Yes.
And so now did you pursue SNL?
Which, by the way, gets you nowhere.
For all those kids out there.
Yeah, it's like a psychology degree. No, I had a BA in theater, but while I was at USC, I started working at a production company, and it was one of the people that worked there told me about Groundlings and said, you should really be taking improv. If you want to do something like SNL, these are where a lot of the SNL people came from. So I went early. Yeah, I was very young, and I entered their classes. So I would go to school, and then at night, twice a week, I would take Groundling classes. And I was in classes with like Will Ferrell. He was a bank teller.
Holy shit, really?
At the time, yeah. I mean,
that's how he was paying for it?
Yeah. Lisa Kudrow was a teacher. It was massive at that time. Like all the people that went on to Saturday Night Live from there, it was nuts. But yeah, he was in my class, and I knew right then, like when I saw him, my eyes on him, there's just certain people that I've worked with in my time when you just set your eyes on them and you're like, wow, that person's going to be massive. And he was one of those people who just, he didn't have an unfunny moment. Never an unfunny improv, never an unfunny sketch. The guy was gold. And so that was exciting, but I just, I continued through that program for about 3 years, and I didn't really have thick enough skin for it. I was in college, And they just, I would just drive home crying because some of the teachers were so mean.
Same
and
girl.
It was crazy, but I learned a lot from it. And while I was at USC, I joined an improv sketch group that performed in front of the library every Friday. And
wait, which library?
Doheny Library. And they were called Comedic Interruptus. And I think they're still there till today, as of now. I hear they still perform. So that was kind of an honor. And then you just perform in front of big groups of students and people that would sit down. And so that's kind of where I got my improv chops. And I continued with that. And then when I graduated from USC, I kind of stopped taking groundlings and I entered into Acme Comedy Theater and started doing sketch comedy with them. And then I kind of I took a stand-up class when I also graduated USC, and I showcased with at the end of the class they put you up at a club somewhere and you do, and I considered myself a stand-up from then on. And I didn't really do stand-up comedy. I'd maybe do it twice a year at an open mic or somebody's special little private show somewhere, and I called myself a stand-up, which wasn't correct. I was really still involved in sketch comedy, and that was my big dream.
Now, can you explain for people who don't know how comedy works? Is it, because now you are constantly performing stand-up, is it considered offensive that you were calling yourself a comic during a time when you were, okay.
A stand-up comic? Yeah, it's completely offensive. Like, I'm a stand-up, and no, I wasn't. I wasn't out there nightly. I wasn't doing it all the time. I had done it. And I could have said, I have done stand-up comedy, but to literally say I'm a stand-up comic, I wasn't. And I wasn't really pursuing it until, I realized that sketch comedy, we weren't getting a lot of audiences in our theater like they were in the Groundlings. And it just didn't seem to be the showcase at some point. And I wasn't making headway with that. So I decided, I needed to showcase myself. And I really went into stand-up comedy and just kind of dove head first and started doing more rooms, and people would put me on their shows to the point where I literally had a moment where someone referred me to the Comedy Store to showcase in front of Mitzi Shore. And I got my moment to perform for her. And it wasn't 3 minutes, the usual showcase. It was 10 minutes in the La Jolla Club because she was looking for women.
Oh, wow.
To put in the belly room upstairs. And she was putting an all-female show together. And that's really where, things changed for me, is that night that Mitzi Shore made me a regular.
So I'm going to jump in from what I understand with the Comedy Store. So Mitzi Shore, may she rest. She passed away about a year and some change ago. Mm-hmm. And she was no joke. I mean, she was like, if she didn't like you, that was it. You wouldn't even necessarily get to finish the 10 minutes.
Oh yeah. And it's crazy. If Mitzi puts her hands on you, and it's not like, and you would know, like, you're so nervous showcasing, and then they'll tell you, well, she'll either talk to you after or she'll ignore you. Ooh. So you walk by her, and I walked by her and she reached out to me. And since I did like a Streisand impersonation, she goes, Barbara, oh my God, you're funny. Call in Monday. And so that was, I will never forget. It's like kind of like Mobster, it was like the God, she was like the godmother. So it's like you felt made at that moment. And from then on, she always called me Barbara. I mean, she knew I was Shawn Pelofsky, but she was always like Barbara. Oh my God. And anytime I sent her a card or went to visit her, I always signed it, Babs, or
that's so cute.
We always had that bond. But yeah, if she didn't like you or she got mad at you, there was one time where I always thought I kind of couldn't do any wrong in front of her. And one time I came into the Comedy Store with my friend Cynthia Levin, she's a hilarious comic. And we had gone to eat at Carney's down the street, and we got, I don't know what kind of bug got up our ass, but we're like, let's get one of those weird chocolate covered bananas, frozen bananas. And we did it. And this frozen banana was huge, and it was curved, and we're just freaks. And so she was chasing me with it at the Comedy Store. And she chased me into this back room where Mitzi was back there getting her feet rubbed. And we stopped in front of her because we didn't expect Mitzi to be there on a Wednesday night. And we were like, oh, hey, Mitzi. And then I got banned for a week.
Get
and
out.
The booker called me, and he's like, Mitzi was very disappointed in your behavior. And I'm like, what? I mean, because my friend's chasing me with a chocolate frozen banana that looks like a penis? That's what it took to get banned? So yeah, it was always very. It was strange when that happened, but I was fortunate enough at her 80th birthday. I was maybe one out of 25 comics invited to her house to celebrate with her, and I'm sitting there. I'm standing next to Jim Carrey, which is like shouldn't be. We should never be standing next to each other, And he's so tall, and me next to him, we look like an ice skating pair, and it was so cool to really celebrate that moment with her.
Yeah, and what Shawn is not saying, because she's being very humble, is that like to have been touched or handpicked by Mitzi, I mean, she saw thousands and thousands and thousands of comics that just wanted her to put eyes on them. Yeah. And she didn't pick everyone, and that is part of why the success of the Comedy Store has existed, because she didn't say yes to everyone. And to be a female that she paid attention to was not just because you were a woman. That was, you just happened to be a woman, but that you were that funny, because she didn't fuck around, from what I heard. Like if she didn't, I mean, that's why the best comics in the world perform there.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so you're at the Comedy Store. Are you still pursuing like sketch comedy and acting? Like, are you still?
I was always pursuing acting.
Okay.
When I came out here to LA, that was really the big dream, is just acting, sketch comedy. So yeah, I'm always still, I never dropped that ball of always trying to get on TV or do film. And again, that really is the goal.
Sure.
Why I got into stand-up.
Sure.
I mean, stand-up has become a love of mine that I don't think I'll ever quit doing. There's something about the live audiences and working off my feet and entertaining people, but the common end goal is you hope that you can get cast in something or create your own show and sell it or wherever. I'm never going to turn down a job. I mean, if it's a douching commercial, here I am. It doesn't matter if it's the one-liner where I walk in and go, coffee, I'm going to do it. Like, why not? To just keep continuously working. That's the dream.
So that fire has only gotten bigger in you.
Yeah. It doesn't stop. I wish it would. There's times where I just want to say, like, why am I doing all this? I want to lay down and die and be like, let me just join Peace Corps. But let's face it, it takes me 2.5 hours to get ready. And I don't think they have a Sephora in Zimbabwe. And I can't, as much as I want to go help the people and the starving children, how am I going to get ready? Like, where am I going to plug in my curling iron? And I worry about these things. And so I have no choice but to just kind of write it out.
Just keep going. Oh, I love that so much. Well, with that transition, that is actually perfect. It's as if we scripted that. So I hope you guys enjoyed your apps. On to the entrees after a quick break. We are back, and now it is time to move on to the entrees. Okay, now this is the question portion where we get into all the fun customer service jobs you had along the way. Okay, so what was your first job ever?
First job, camp counselor.
Okay.
Camp counselor at Camp Sabra, Jew camp. And I will call it Jew camp because I can. So every year I would go, my parents, like Jewish people parents, they love to send their kids away for the summer for like a month or two. I don't know why. They're like, Shlomo, you're out. And I mean, I lived in Oklahoma City, which wasn't the biggest Jewish population. And then I got sent to a camp in Rocky Mount, Missouri, where there are less Jews. It's like deliverance is waiting there for you. But there was this Jewish camp hidden in the middle of Rocky Mount, Missouri mountains, and Camp Sabra, and I loved it. And I started going there since I was like 9 years old, and then about like 15, you become a counselor in training, and then I became a counselor. Okay. And that's where I grew up. It's where I learned everything. I learned how to give a hand job. I'm still working on that, and I love that job. Didn't pay much, but you got to go away and be away from your parents and have fun.
Okay. And what was your first, because I mean, that's like somewhat customer service, but what was your first where you were like beholden to the customer kind of job?
That would be working at Express in West Side Pavilion. Express Limited.
Can you explain West Side Pavilion to non-LA people?
Yes. West Side Pavilion is a mall located in Los Angeles, which is now owned by Westfield, I believe. And now I think it's becoming Google.
Oh, get
It's
out.
a Google, like the mall's shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just this place to go, and they, of course, had an Express, and I loved their clothes and thought, oh my God, who doesn't want to work selling, Express clothes? And the time that I worked there was the time Express only played loud French music. So you would, and it was and not just loud, but like at 100 decibels, because I guess that made people buy clothes or make
Get
them
the
want to
fuck
commit
out.
And I literally, it would be like you'd walk in, it was like, un, deux, trois, énergie, and you're like, would you like this blouse? Do you want me to open you a dressing room? And it was so stressful. And, I didn't get commission or anything. And my two best friends from college also worked at Express. One worked in Davis, California, and the other one worked at the Express in Las Vegas. So all three of us, we kind of found it glamorous that all three of us were working at an Express the same summer. And you got a discount on your clothes.
Well, that matters.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. So that's something. How many customer service jobs have you had total? Like, what would you say is your, take your time.
Well, after I think working in a clothing store, that's when I left college. I really dove into waitressing. So I did that for at least 10 years.
Okay.
And I worked at several different places, But
you transitioned out of retail. And
retail into waitressing because that's where they said the money was at. You can make fast money, and that's what I did. And what actor doesn't wait tables?
Hello.
And you come out to California. That's really a dream. So as soon as I graduated college, my first job, I remember I lived in Pasadena, and I got a job at the Olive Garden.
Oh God.
And that was in a mall. And the mall right now, that mall became an outdoor mall. But we had to carry the big trays. And at that time, I still remember when we got the salads out, we didn't have gloves.
Oh, get out.
No. I got salad out with my hands. I think about all the shit how much scurvy I could have spread and Ebola. But you get the salad out with your hands. It wasn't really sanitary.
Were they still doing unlimited breadsticks, or did they have they started?
Oh
with that?
yeah.
Oh,
Then
my God.
people got unlimited soup, salad, and breadsticks for $2.
Oh my God.
And I still know from the pasta we make to lasagna we bake. We're wishing you a happy birthday. I still hear that song in my head, and you just kind of. Yeah, but those big trays that you had to carry around with heavy plates of pasta, and it was all unlimited. And I worked there for a short period of time.
Okay.
And then I got tired of working. I maybe worked there a year, if that. And but I met a lot of good friends there, and some of my best friends came from that Olive Garden. And then I moved on to working at Islands in Glendale Galleria.
Oh God.
Or it was across from the Glendale Galleria. And that Islands is still there. I saw it. Yeah, I hadn't been over in that area in a long time. And then I drove by and I'm like, that's where I dedicated maybe 3 years of my life to that Glendale Islands. And that place was a little more casual, fun. But then they introduced us to the Palenko, I think, system where it's where you had to memorize numbers for food items.
No.
So it was and so for every word, 80, without or no or the word add, everything is a number. So it'd be 33, 41. That's how you spelled out your order.
Oh,
And if you forgotten, it was frightening.
Oh
it
my
was,
God.
It was frightening.
How many you must have made a mistake every shift. There's no way.
And they would give you a lot of tables, and it was pretty casual there. And on a Friday night, the saddest thing is, especially in Glendale, 15 Armenian kids would come in, they'd sit in the big booth and they would order unlimited basket of fries for $1.50 and glasses of water. And they would sit there for 4 hours and there's nothing you could do about it.
Don't ever do that. If you're listening and you're a customer, we understand not everybody has enough money to go out. It's fine if you're young. We've all been young, but don't post for 4 hours on an unlimited bill. That's so unfair.
Yeah.
And would they tip?
No.
Yeah, of course not.
No. And then the cool thing, though, the good day that I remember what Islands would do once in a while, they would have a free lunch day. And then people would come in and you'd be like, sorry, you don't get a check today because it's free lunch day. And people were never happier. And you could make a lot of money on that day.
And they would tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's like, because people all got a free lunch. It could be 4 people sitting there. And I can't imagine how much money they lost that day when they would do something like that. But people were just like out of their fucking minds. Like you dropped a bar of gold and, I don't
they won
know.
The lottery.
Yeah. Gave them a spa day and people got so excited about it. But that's what I remember about Islands. It was like there were cool people that worked there, but I was really involved with, still trying to train and do my work. So I didn't really spend all the time. Sometimes wait staffs get really close and I never really bonded fully with that wait staff because I was kind of just really driven in getting out.
Sure.
And from then on, I moved on to Louise's Trattoria opened in Pasadena, and we opened that store. Okay. So I was with the opening team for that, and we opened out on Colorado Street. It was a very busy location, and we had all this massive training, and then we had a sommelier, which, would come in and teach us about wine, and a couple of my good friends from Olive Garden that I worked with came over there, and we just, I spent a couple years working with them. And
now, do you remember the actual opening process of the restaurant being terrible? Because I've opened one restaurant and it was a nightmare, and I quit shortly thereafter. Did you? Obviously, it wasn't awful for you.
It was pretty crazy, but I don't remember it being a total nightmare.
Okay.
I think we had it together there, and the nightmare was they had a downstairs, so you had to run up and down the stairs for private parties, and nobody wanted that to run downstairs. And then also another nightmare working at Louise's, and I was really close with that waitressing family because I had known some people previously, and we had some pretty lackadaisy bosses that were fun, and they were kind of pushovers. But I remember specifically the Rose Bowl parade, when you got tapped to work that Rose Bowl parade, and it wasn't like they had sit-down dining, but they sold pizza kind of outside, and you had to work all night because people line up to sit on Colorado to wait for the
parade in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh my!
So you're
God.
like working all night, and that was a tough one. Like I did that only 1 year, and then I never did it that year again.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh, that sounds.
And then awful. And then after that, I probably the best place, the craziest place I worked, and that's where I have a ton of stories. Is I moved on, and after Louise's Trattoria, I switched over to working at Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills in their fine dining restaurant. We opened up the Mariposa downstairs, and what people were used to was, before this restaurant opened, upstairs, and I think they had this at every Neiman's, they had the Zodiac room where everyone was 150 years old, and they got the same orange souffle salad with tuna fish, whatever it was. And it was old, and it was just kind of classic and old. And then they had the club room connected, where the really elite rich people who didn't want to sit with the old people or whatever. And so the club room was very specialized. Well, they shut down that club room. They shut down the Zodiac, and they open up this Mariposa, which has Alexander Calder tapestries in it, and it's very modern looking. And they open this up downstairs, and they train us, and they're going to have their famous popover still, their consomme that they drop right at the beginning, and which every Neiman Marcus restaurant has, and that is their tradition. Opening that restaurant was a fucking nightmare.
Oh God! Because
none of these people wanted change, and all you had to hear about all day long is like, "This place is terrible. I remember upstairs was wonderful. This is horrible. Oh, I miss the Zodiac. Why don't they bring back the Zodiac? Why did they get rid of the club room?" You had to hear about it, and then the worst. Those popovers, those are like crack to people, and if you don't bring out that popover and something goes wrong with the popover oven, there is hell to pay. People drew blood. I remember when we opened, the popover oven went down. We ran out of popovers. People berate you. You think you raped their whole family in front of them the way they talk to you. It was fucking nuts.
Wait, what's a popover? I don't think I know.
Popover is like a brioche.
Oh.
It's a bread brioche. It's I think it's like an English-based type of bread that they pop. And it's like doughy and like light, and it's like airy in the middle, and you serve it with the butter. And then you have to, before that, they get this like little teacup of chicken broth consomme with a cheese stick.
God.
And it's like, it's their tradition. And if you skip a step, these people will remind you.
Living in your ass.
Like I said, they'll draw your blood. And when that machine went down, it was like the end all be all. And so it was so crazy. And some people that I had worked with at Louise's, I brought them over.
Oh, God.
And the family that we developed, I worked there 5 years, and the family that I developed there, and you could make, your lunch shift, it was easy. It would open at 11, it'd close by 5 or 4.
So it's like a 5 or 6 hour shift. Nothing
and
crazy.
You could make, because the menu was expensive.
Really?
And you could make good money. And during the holidays,
forget it.
The hustle's real. And when people hand you a gift, people would be like, Shawn, they would just slip 100 into your,
hell yeah.
And then, but when they were cheap, and I can name names and people, and the people that I got to wait on and the opportunities that I had, it was nuts.
Now, so the popovers would come like complimentary with with the experience.
Yes.
And then so like if you, even though that was free, and I want people to hear this, even though that was free, if they were unavailable because the oven was down, people handed you your ass over that.
Completely.
That's,
completely.
I don't understand.
It's crazy. I'd be like, this is just bread.
It's just
and there's a war right now in Afghanistan. There were moments I tried to hold, for all the complaint letters that were written to me,
I will die.
To the Dallas headquarters.
I will die.
There were twice as many complimentary letters. Like, aww. I balance it out. But when I lost my shit, I held it, but I would try to do it with humor. Like, are you we had to wear all black. So we had a black button-up shirt, black long apron, black pants. And I had this, we went through many managers, but we had this one manager who worked there for years. Like, God bless Jim. And Jim, he talked like this, really affected. Yeah. And Jim overheard me once. I came to a table. I rattled off like 18 specials. And the couple at the table, they go, "Oh, are you our waitress?" And I said, "Well, I'm not Zorro." And my manager happened to be at the back of the room and overheard me. And he's like, "Shauna, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "You can't tell our customers you're not Zorro. That is not the proper." And I was like, "Well, I just thought it was a stupid question."
Oh, I'm dying. And so how did they respond like snarkily to you, even though he pulled you away from the table? Were they like, "Oh, fuck
no,"
you for
they blew that up. But God bless Jim. Jim would come in hammered at all times. And during the holidays, we would have this thing called Breakfast with Santa. Now, Breakfast with Santa would start before it was in the morning every Saturday in December. And these rich people would make reservations. They would pay $50 per person. Let me tell you what their kid got on their plate. Half a pancake, 1 piece of bacon, an egg, and then they get a candy cane, and then Santa would come in and a hot chocolate. And I think they got a glass of champagne with their meal.
Oh my
it
God.
was such a fucking ripoff. But these rich people would dress their kids up. They'd come in. Santa would come in for half a second. And this would be from like 9 to 10:30 before we opened. And it would be packed. It'd be chaos. And our manager would come in drunk, and he'd be like, he'd take roll call. And then we'd all be laughing because we're like, he's so drunk. And then he'd be like, Shawn, are you here? And we're like, Jim Beam, are you here? Glenn Fittich. We're like, Jose Cuervo. But like, why do you have alcohol on your breath? You're running an experience, like
an
restaurant.
Event. Yeah.
Why? And I love Jim, but Jim loved them young. Gay guy loved them young. He loved the dishwashers. I don't think anyone was of age. And then he would disappear and go to Puerto Vallarta. And then he would show me pictures. And I'd be like, I'm pretty sure you're going to be behind bars soon. Like, it got uncomfortable.
Oh my God. Okay. So that job you had for 5 years.
Yes.
And did you do the Santa Claus experience every year? So for 5 years.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Because you could really make good money with that too. The holidays, like I said, it gets so busy and people did not give a shit. People didn't care. When you got people that were, and you knew who the good tippers were, and you knew who the people who were so rich, and they were shit ass tippers.
Oh, it's so
biggest
true.
Shit is oh my God, oh my God, I cannot think of his name, and he was the comedian who was known to have like the biggest dick of all time. He was an old guy, and now I can't think of.
I'm out.
Oh my God, I can't believe who I'm thinking. Anyways, we called his wife, who was much younger. We called him, he died, and we called his wife, Mrs. Horsecock, behind her back. So she would come in, Milton Berle, Milton Berle's wife. Yeah, so she'd come in.
I didn't know
she'd sit down in the very VIP booth, and you sit down. She was cheap as fuck. And you'd come in and you'd sit down, and she'd sit down and you'd wait on her, and she would go, listen, darling, could you run up to the third floor and get me some, because they had a little cafe up there.
Yeah.
Could you get me some low-fat yogurt? And I'm like, I'm 15 tables deep.
Yeah,
I have like the Prince of, Sudan, and I have Nancy Reagan. I mean, let me just tell you, all these people I have 15 tables. It's the holidays, and this bitch wants me to run up.
And she's not tipping?
No. And I would literally, she's like, could you run up? And I go, no.
Good job, you.
No, I can't.
No, I cannot. The answer is no.
No.
No. And maybe if you slip me $5, even then I still can't.
No.
No, because you're 15 deep. You're in the weeds. Ugh.
Mrs. Horsecock was a terrible, terrible tipper.
I did not know Milton Berle had a huge
Yeah,
tip.
he had a giant penis.
Okay.
Which is weird, but yes.
That's okay. Which of minus anything creative, what was your favorite job that you've had in the customer service realm?
God, my favorite job in customer service.
I know.
Oof.
She's making a pretty terrible face right now.
I don't know if any of them were my favorite. I'm not sure I really enjoyed, because then, you're never really doing
what you want to be doing.
What you want to do. I mean, I think the most memorable for me was Neiman Marcus, because I still talk to some of those people. I still go in there. I mean, I lived in Beverly Hills for a long time, and I can still go in there, and some of the same bussers and chefs and waiters, and we were like a family, and I could write a whole book about that place. So the memories and the laughs that I have from some of the people, I still see them when I'm shopping. I still see some of those customers, and I'm like, but when like I said, the customers were good.
Sure.
And some people were just lonely, and they'd come in and sit there, and I got opportunities. I mean, let me tell you, there was one time I was the only one on. It was about 4:00. I turned around, there's no one in the restaurant, and George Michael walked in with somebody, and he sat down, and it was right after the whole, he got caught jacking off in the or he had not jacking off,
park,
but he had got giving somebody a blowjob in the park or whatever. And I've never seen a line form. There were all these young Asian girls forming a line outside the restaurant, because they'd heard he was in the store.
Oh my God.
And to have that moment, to meet someone iconic like that, was really exciting.
Yeah. Okay.
There were people that came in that just, you're like, wow, I got this moment.
So for the moments, you would say Neiman Marcus was your favorite.
Yeah, and the staff and the funny and the ship. Listen, I'm not proud of some of the stuff I did. That I did there, and I did some really dark, terrible shit there.
Are you willing to tell one?
Oh, I'd say it right now, and I'm sure the popo's going to come kicking down my door. I'm usually an honest person. I'm afraid to break the law, but when I really look back at it, I did break the law. I literally stole stuff. And when I say stole stuff, it's my friends would come in, and I'd be like, come, and I would talk to the chefs, and they'd make them special appetizers, and then the pastry chef would give me desserts, and then I would I'd get them extra taro chips, and then I would just go to the bar, and my Vicky Barbalack, my best friend, she would sit there, and I would pour the most expensive champagne, 2 bottles to her. My family would come in, and I'm just taking for myself, for my friends, and my friends and family would eat like kings. all day, every day. And that's like it was stealing.
I mean, technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then here's something I'm not totally proud of. But there was a family that would come in, a very, 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 very rich family. They were loaded. And they would come in and they had this kind of troubled son. And he was real troubled. He's always on TMZ or whatever.
Oh.
And he would come in and something was a little bit special about him. He was a little slow to talk but he was on drugs and things. And he would come in with new friends, you quote, friends every time.
Yeah.
And a lot of these rich people would just leave there. And that was another element about working at Neiman's. People were so, they were so used to customer service. And so they never really wanted to lift a finger. So they would come without their Neiman Marcus credit card. And so in the middle of a lunch rush, they would be like, oh, honey, I didn't bring my card with me. Could you just look it up for me and charge it? So then you have to, as you're waiting tables, you have to get on hold with customer service at Neiman's and wait for them to look up their credit card number.
Oh, Shawn, no.
Yeah. So it would throw you into the weeds so bad.
Oh, my God.
And you're like just in a panic. I still have nightmares about like that happening. But then we had a black book where we would start to put people's numbers and credit cards in.
Smart.
So you had it logged. So this family was one of those people that had it logged. And so when this kid would come in and kind of run you, and you're like, well, you know what? We would all do this. We'd be like, oh, well, lunch is on them. And we would order the lobster cob and food for the whole staff, and we would just charge it to them.
I mean,
it's crazy.
Like I should not condone that, but I
should be hauled off by the popo. But shit
but
like
I get
that.
It. I mean, especially when someone's like people don't understand how intense the weeds really are.
Yeah.
If you give a shit about because listen, you can check out of a customer service job, not one that tips are paying your rent. Like you can't ever check out.
Especially when they have the money.
Yes.
Another nutty thing is, I will never forget this. Again, a moment I'm not proud of, but I'm going to say it. When you're worried about people spitting in your food or this and that, and you're a dick, they're right about it. I had this one instance where this old doctor, he's come in with his wife, and he was just kind of a curmudgeon. And my friend had just gotten off the shift. He just got off his shift, and it was just they had cut it down to just me because it was towards the end of the afternoon. He came in, and somehow I started to get sad a lot. And I was taking their order, this doctor and his wife's order, and I was kind of like looking around because I was just kind of taking, a visual of the room. You're kind of sizing up like, okay, I see this, I see that, because you're trying to be present. And he goes, look at me when I'm talking to you.
Ew.
And that was the end for me. I'd had it. I went back. I turned to my friend Mark. I said, I will not wait on them. I took their popover. I kicked it down the kitchen floor, dirty. I kicked it like a fucking soccer ball. I took that popover. My friend brought it out and served him. And then my friend, this is it. And I'm probably, Popo, are you coming? The health police are coming. Oh, they're coming. But again, I will say it right here. Please don't judge me, America, on this. I would never do this today, but I was much, much younger then. I turned to my friend and he said, give me their iced tea. And I gave the iced tea. And next thing I know, he goes, get out of here. He was unbuckling his pants.
Shawn!
I'm not kidding. I think they got dick tea. They got dick tea. And I know, no, people would not know me for this. People see me as and I try and be a pleasant person. But I think at moments I couldn't take it anymore. And I got super vengeful at people that just are shitty and mean.
Hello. Oh, but you did it for all of us.
Yeah, so Dick T, guys, don't just be nice to your servers. Never say, look at me when I'm talking to you.
Yeah, we're not indentured.
Yeah.
Like you.
No.
We're humans.
Yeah.
We're humans, and you can be kind to us. Okay, so what was your least favorite of all of the customer service jobs? If you were like, I know they probably all tie at the bottom.
I'd probably say the same place.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Neiman's, the least and my most
memorable.
Actually, you know what? I take that back. My least favorite place, I can't even remember the name. I blacked out I worked there for maybe 3 weeks and I walked out in the middle. My friend Mark Turasi, who was a manager at the Comedy Store, was also running a restaurant in Westwood. And he's like, we need we need waitresses. And I went in. They were so disorganized. I think I left in the middle of my shift. I hated that place. It was terrible. And they sat you 1,000 times, and it was just this little lunch rush. People, you didn't make money. You tipped out $1 billion. And I just was like, I walked out on that shift. I hated that place.
Okay, I get that. Those are all reasons to hate a job.
I forgot about that one. Okay. Yeah, I blocked it out.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever been asked whilst on the clock at a customer service job, like by a customer, to do or get or say? I mean, maybe look me in the eyes while you're talking to me is up there, but like...
Gosh, I mean, I think the strangest stuff was at always being asked to run up to the different cafe upstairs. I think that's always the strangest request, was like, go run another errand. This entitlement of we have a lot of things in this restaurant. Now I need to go get you the soup from upstairs. You're a fuckwad. I'm not running.
And why wouldn't they just go upstairs and order food from up there if they wanted food from up there?
Yeah. And another strange thing, one of the weirdest things was we had this guy, and he would come in, and he was this kind of, again, this older Jewish guy. And what he would do, and I think he owned dance reviews, topless dance reviews in Vegas. Ooh. So what he would do is he would take these young girls, he would get them plastic surgery in Beverly Hills, he'd get them new noses,
oh my God,
and tits, and he'd come in, I guess he just picked them up from their surgery.
Oh my God.
And he would have lunch. And when you saw his you saw him sit down, we would fight. You pray he got in your section.
Oh.
Because, and it was very odd, you'd go up to this guy, he'd order a salad, he'd order for the girl, whatever, and maybe it comes out to $70, $60, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Or he would order a lot, and then he'd maybe $100. And then at the end, he would go, okay, what is my bill? All right, now tell me, what's half of that right now? Like, he'd want you to do the math.
Okay, so if it was...
And then he would triple that, and that would be your tip. But he wanted you to do math in front of him, which was fucking also really crazy. Like, so when you'd see him come in, you'd go back and you'd cheat. You'd be like, but like, he'd hand you a wad of money. And you're like, God. Perfect day.
Yeah.
But bizarre.
But of all the weird things, like as women, we've all been asked on the clock to do, like, I'll do math for you. I'll do math.
But everybody, he'd ask whether it was a man or a woman.
Didn't matter. He wanted the math performance.
You did math. But people would come in, and like celebrities, and it was, crazy to see how well off some of these people were, if they didn't tip or they did. I mean, I remember like Babyface being cheap, like your
Really?
Babyface, Sugar Ray Leonard.
They're both
David
cute.
Allen Pierce. No, but you get like some greats would come in there, and they were just, Heather Locklear was always like really wonderful. You get Jodie Foster. She was always really quiet. Stevie Nicks.
Would she tip?
She's my favorite singer. Somehow I was always on break or off when she'd come in. They're like, you just missed Stevie Nicks. I'm like, what? Chris Cornell came in.
Good tipper?
Once. Yeah.
Okay.
He came in with his model wife, and I was like, oh my God, it's Chris Cornell. But all types, the meanest, Steve, my God, why am I the talk show host?
Harvey.
Steve Harvey, the meanest person alive.
I've heard that from so many people.
He'd come in with wife number 3, 4,
7.
She was the loveliest woman you would ever meet. She was stunning. She was kind. She had about a 48 carat ring on her hand. He had he was always snarling.
Ew.
Snarling.
I can't.
I couldn't tell him I was a comedian. I didn't talk to him. He wasn't pleasant. He was mean, not nice. Roseanne would come in. I didn't tell her what I did. She was kind of funny because she'd be like, what should I order? And I'd be like, yeah, she sounds like Mitzi. And I'd say the lobster Cobb salad. And she goes, why? And I go, because it's the most expensive thing on the menu.
Would you say that?
Sure. And she's like, okay, good point. I go, and it's good. So she would. But it's amazing how some people were not nice, and you just got to see how people. But he was so not nice to his wife.
Would he not tip? Steve Harvey, would he not tip?
I don't remember. I think she took care of that.
And she probably tipped.
Yeah, and Candy Spelling, cheap.
Really?
Cheap.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
Cheap.
Okay. What's the incident, like another incident with you that like, okay, well, Zorro, they didn't ask to speak to the manager, but what's like a time when a customer like directly didn't write a letter to corporate, but in the moment was like, I need to speak to your manager?
Oh, I don't know. There were so many of them that I don't think I can pinpoint that.
Okay.
I always tried to solve the problem. I really always did try.
Okay.
You know, I don't think there was where I was outright like, except that one time where that guy said, if they weren't nice, I would hand them to somebody else because I'm like, I'm at a breaking point.
Yeah.
I'm about to lose it. But I don't really remember any other time that stood out. And I'm sure there were plenty of people that wanted to say something. But for all that, you had the regulars that come in and say, if I'm not in Shawn's section, I'm not eating here.
Wow.
You know, and different waiters had that.
Sure. Okay. So do you remember, you've told us a couple of these, but like a last straw that got you out of like, or what was the last straw that got you out of customer service altogether? Because you're one of the lucky few that got to get out. So what was the like, obviously you had career success in your artistic pursuits, but was there something where you were like, I don't give a fuck, I'm done working in customer service altogether? Or did you end on like a pleasant, you were like, all right, it's time for me to be done?
I knew it was time for me to be done. I don't even remember how I transitioned because I then went on from waiting tables to working at a PR firm at the front desk. I was the front desk girl, and sometimes I got, I didn't always handle people that well either, especially when they're rude to you're like, man, I'm a nice person. I'm going to greet you. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to help you with your appointment. And I just think at some point, I don't know why I switched over. I think I'd done it for so long. And someone maybe had told me about an opportunity, and it seemed like maybe I could be a little more flexible with what I was doing. I started to do stand-up more, and I went with that job. I don't really remember the transition.
Well, and I've heard, like you've kind of touched on it, that it's like there is a certain point where you have reached your max and you've been at a 10 with not just customer service, but like specifically waiting tables. There is a moment that I know that everyone has where they're just like, oh, and some people, you can be a lifer. Some people retire from that job and like, God love you. But for a lot of us, there's a moment where you're like, no, I can't. If I wait on another table, I'm gonna put my hands on someone and I can't do it.
Yeah. I think I was already like that 5 years before I had left. I had already kind of checked out. And I think just what kept me going is that I was doing comedy and just trying to
pursue what you wanted.
Yeah. I think that's what kind of kept my sanity.
Okay. Have you ever had any bodily fluids on you, someone else's, whilst you were on the clock anywhere? Did anyone like puke or pee or do anything like gross on you?
No.
Okay. Well,
no.
You're lucky.
No, God, in Neiman's, I couldn't imagine that going down. No, I never saw anybody puke or, because I worked in decent restaurants. I didn't work in like clubs or.
Sure. Okay.
Everyone kind of kept it together. It was not really anyone I don't even think I ever had to cut anybody off or.
Sure. It just wasn't,
especially like during a lunch shift, if you're drinking a lot of lunch, except my own friends, I think that when I was just stealing, just find $500 worth of champagne. Yeah, maybe that.
Okay. Do you tip?
Do I tip?
Yeah.
I tip like, I tip 400%. Like 30, 30% at least.
That is your minimum?
Always.
Have you ever stiffed a
no.
server?
And even when they were just so blatant right terrible to me, never.
Really?
Never.
Oh,
never.
So do you do 30% across the board no matter what?
No, I would probably give less if someone didn't treat me as nice, but not maybe 20. But I always, oh God.
Because you get it.
Oh, I get it. And if something's been comped for me, I know to like double tipping. I'm very particular. If I'm sitting with somebody and I watch them not tip well, that is...
Oh, it's a deal breaker.
That's a huge pet peeve. People who are cheap with tipping.
Yeah.
I tip to go.
Oh, you do?
I tip. I always tip. I tip with Uber and Lyft, even when tips weren't included, that you couldn't even find a button to add. I always make sure. I really try to be very, when I'm taking if I park at a parking structure near the airport and you get on one of those buses and they take you to the airport, I always, even though I have my own bag, I'll tip the guy. I'm very
karmically
aware about that. Yeah, because a service is a service.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people don't think they should tip when you do to go, but people put your stuff together. They take your order. And just maybe because they're not running back and forth doesn't mean that they aren't doing a service.
Sure, I agree. Okay, and sometimes people are assigned to the tip out counter, and that will be all they're working all night. So like they may not get another tip other than a random person like you for the whole night. So that shift is considered a throwaway. Okay, and then have you ever been stiffed?
Oh yeah, ton.
Okay. Do you remember an incident where it happened, or you were just like, oh, this is just, because people always think it's in relation to the type of service you give. No, some people just don't tip regardless of the experience that they have.
A lot of Europeans.
Sure.
I remember if I ever chased people out, so a lot of people, sometimes people will take the wrong receipt. That's what I saw a lot of that at Neiman's. People just being old and taking the wrong receipt.
Yeah.
And like they left you with nothing and it was a big bill and you're like, shit. But stiffed, Olive Garden, Islands, because they were cheaper places.
Sure.
Neiman's, if you got stiffed, that was hard because you had a big bill.
And then would you tip out on tips at Neiman's, or would you tip out on sales? Or both?
You tip out on everything. I tipped out a lot, and I would tip my busser.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes on a lunch shift, I'd be handing like $70.
Yeah.
$75 to a busser.
That's hard.
And, your food runner, your bartender.
Mm-hmm. The hostess.
I got audited 2 years in a row.
What?
That was before like computers lodged in your
tips and everything?
Yeah. And it was unfair because I was tipping and I didn't have a log.
Oh, I
didn't have a physical log of a book, and I had to pay.
Are you kidding me?
They came after me. It was, when I was struggling, and it was like, that's shitty.
That's so fucking
But it
shitty.
happened 2 years in a row, and I was like, you think I was sitting on secret money, but I was barely getting by.
Oh, that sucks.
They'll get you.
They will. Were you ever fired from a customer service job?
I was fired. I was working at a daycare once and I got fired. I don't remember why they fired me. And it was a kind of an illegal daycare where they gave you like 22-year-olds to one it was like it was in Oklahoma. It was not right. And they fired me.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
They did you a favor.
Yeah. I don't even remember why. I think they said I talked to a kid.
Oh,
something.
shut up.
I don't know. But that place got closed down pretty fast. They weren't
operating legally.
No.
Can you remember the worst customer you ever had to deal with besides Steve Harvey? Was there someone that you were like, this person was the worst?
Oh, God.
Or was he the number one?
I mean, he wasn't the worst. He's just a dick. I think the worst was the way that what that guy said to me. That was the worst. Yeah, I just didn't like to be demeaned like that. We had a lot of worse. We'd had like Mrs. Trainer. She'd come in. She'd sit in your table for the whole fucking Neiman's lunch, and she'd leave barely anything. And darling, could you run and get me? And it's like, no, Trainer. We're just terrible. But some of the customers I got so connected to and stayed in touch. And there was one customer, Calvin, and he would come in with his wife and his daughter, and they were older. Calvin was in his 90s, and he was just a sweet man. He was also a Leo like myself, and he wore this cute little Orville Redenbacher bow tie. Aww. And he couldn't really speak. I think something had happened, and he'd always just mouth like, I love you. And something, I knew Calvin in a former life. And I got to tell you, there was one day I was waiting tables and I just sat up and I go, oh my God, Calvin died. And they go, what? And I'm like, Calvin died. And they're like, why would you say that? And I'm like,
I just know he did.
And I was right.
Get out.
And when his wife and daughter came in, oh, it was so sad. I know. But there's just people that I still think about. I wonder how they are, and maybe I've lost touch, and I still keep, in touch with a lot of people I waited tables with.
It's like a weird connection.
And ran into my old boss, Jim, in the middle of Puerto Vallarta
who's still
in an alleyway. I mean, he was like,
are you serious?
Shawn, and he called me Shauna. He was like, Shauna, because I did have this customer that would come in. I don't know if she was an older woman. She'd come in with her hairy son, and she was like, Shauna, are you married yet, Shauna, are you married yet? And then she brought in her Wookiee of a son when she was like, Shauna, I want you to meet, Farnushta. And I'm like, Farnushta? And he was like, like a Wookiee. That guy was really hairy. But she was like, Shauna. So everyone called me Shauna at work. Aww. And that's when my boss kept going, Shauna. So
Okay. Have you ever been rendered speechless from an interaction with a customer?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to take a moment because, I thought maybe I'd put my hands on someone, and then I just was like, 5, 4, hold it, and and then you just have to like handle it with humor,
Yep.
take a moment,
Yep.
take a breath.
Yep.
I mean, people are shockingly inappropriate
Yes.
and impolite,
Yes.
and unaware
Yes. I would totally.
and unapologetic.
Yep. What's the rudest thing you've ever said to a customer?
Oh my God, where do we begin? I don't, it's been so long, I don't remember.
That's okay.
I don't remember the rudest thing I've ever said. I mean, like, I jokingly said, I'm not Zorro.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
probably
good.
not the friendliest thing. I thought it was funny. At least it was funny.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay. Well, now we're going to transition to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. What was the nicest thing that a customer has ever done for you that you can remember, or one of the nicest things?
I think, just visiting me regularly, they would come in with, like I said, Maxine Factor. She was the granddaughter of Max Factor.
Holy shit.
She'd come in and she had her quirks and she did like something from the third level, but boy, would I run for her because she was good people.
Yeah.
And she would always just have cash in an envelope, put it in my pocket. There was this beautiful Persian couple that would come in. They were glamorous, and they were like out of a magazine, and they would also come with like an envelope, and they're like, you make us so happy, Shauna. We love you, Shauna. And there were people that came through that touched my life, and maybe they were just lonely and wanted company, but a lot of people were and they were supportive of my career. Some of them would show up at my shows.
Oh.
And, you don't forget about those people. I think about them often. And then there were the people that came in, they looked like they were straight out of Saturday Night Live. They looked like a character. They looked like they got out of a madhouse, and we would be back there just laughing, going, oh my God, look at table 2. I mean, it just never ended. It was a cast of characters, and it still is.
Yeah.
That they changed the Mariposa room over, and now it's like really different looking. And it's a little colder feeling, and they opened up all the makeup counters. They moved that to the bottom floor. So it's more cosmetic down there, and
Sure.
It's brighter. And I don't know if they have the same people that come down there anymore, but once in a while, I still, I get nostalgic, and I'll go there and see the staff and tip well and hug them, and it's just nice.
Oh, I love that. And what's the best lesson you learned from working customer service?
Just to be humble and always treat others as you'd like to be treated. If you're I'm always very aware when I meet anybody. I always greet people if I'm pulling out of a parking structure. And this is how I decide if people are good people or not. If I was dating someone or whatever, I knew my husband was a good man because, we pull up to the parking structure where you give your ticket and do you ask them, hi, how are you today? Or, you're at the supermarket, you're checking out. Are you friendly with the person, or do you stand there, you don't talk, you're on your phone? People, they're human beings. And I don't think if there's not some type of pleasantry, it's like, what are we all standing there? It's really easy to be a dick, but how hard is it for people just to be nice? So what I learned is just try and be as kind as you can to people, and know that the service industry, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I have like respect for mothers raising children. If people are just stay-at-home mom, well, that's a big job. I used to nanny and take care of my sister's 2 kids, and it's a big job. You just got to respect people and try and be kind, but they're doing a service for you, and give back what you would want, tip out and be nice.
I love that. I couldn't have said it better. And what's one piece of advice that you would give customers who interact with customer service workers? Just be nice.
Be nice and be understanding. Sometimes people are like, oh my God, service is bad. Well, maybe if you look around, you see that person running, they're the only one on, and maybe it's the restaurant's fault that they didn't have more people on. Laugh it off a little bit. If it's just totally terrible and the person's not nice to you, you don't need to make a scene. The other night I was out with the other day I was at with some coworkers celebrating a coworker's birthday. We had about an hour for lunch, and we've been to this place before, and the same waiter I had before came up, and somehow he's always in the weeds, and he's like, I just got set, and blah, 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 blah. And we kind of all laughed it off. But there was one person that was just off the rails. Why did we choose this place? Just kept going. And then when I went to go handle the bill, she just let the waiter have it. I was really embarrassed. And I still tipped him. I still took care of him. I still gave him 30%. He wasn't the best. I saw but I was embarrassed, and I was like, God, there's always just that one cocksucker that's got to
create a scene,
let it rip. It was like, calm down, calm down. It's just there's other things in this world we need to worry about. There's homeless people. Just calm down.
Calm down. I love that. Well, how can people get in touch with you, Shawn? What's your social?
Well, they can just call me at my phone. Oh,
no, don't do it.
Is that too personal?
Don't do it.
I'm really lonely. My website, you can go hahachick, HAHACHICK.com. That'll give you my show dates, and you can also contact me, reach email there, and at Shawn Pelofsky on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And my Facebook rant show is the second Friday of every month at the Comedy Store in the Belly Room, which is just, it's a wonderful show.
It's hilarious. I've seen it a couple times. It is so ridiculously
Thank you, Kate,
funny.
for your sweet support.
Yeah, I love that show so much. And
we love you. Believe me.
Appreciate you. How can people get eyes on anything that you have either been in or working on right now? When does Funny You Should Ask air, or when can we see you?
Oh, well, I just skipped that completely, huh? I have a 1 hour comedy special out right now.
What?
Probably the place you could see it the easiest is Amazon. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get it for free, but it's on it's on iTunes. It's on demand. It's in many, many places, on more platforms than I can even start to recite.
Okay.
It's on everything but Netflix. So
what's it called?
It's called Stretch It Out.
Okay.
And as Shawn Pelofsky, Stretch It Out. So you can always see my work on there, and you can go to YouTube, and you can watch the show that I produce and write on called Funny You Should Ask. It's on CBS in certain big cities at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. I guess it runs twice, and then, or you can check your local listings on cable. It shows at a variable different times of the day.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And we're going to drop checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here, Service from Hell, leave a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends to listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled on the art of being kind and be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thank you so much, Shawn, for being here. We really appreciate you.
I really appreciate you having me. And I think that's the service popo at the door right now.
On that note, we're going to get out of here. Good night, guys.